Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of the Disc Golf Answer Man. All right, let's move on to the next one. This one's from Rock.
Dude from Australia. Let's go.
G'day, fellas. It's Rock here from Australia. EMAC, Mr. McCall, Bobby, and Danny, who I assume is floating around in the background. Guys, this is a long one, so strap in while I paint you a picture. So, I put my hand up to TD an event for the first time last weekend. This event doubled as the Women's Global event. First of all, I want to shout out to the turkeys who did a lot of grunt work and made me look very good. Throughout the event, we had a couple of, many sporting teams running a lightning carnival using and sharing the same space. We rolled with the punches for the most part, but there were a whole bunch of unsupervised kids, toddlers, rogue grandparents tottering about around the place. They were constantly walking across our fairways. The players were pretty good. They used spotters to keep the fairways clear while they were teeing off, but gee, it was a nuisance. I maintain we just needed to hit one of them to send a message, but my tournament director mentor, Hootie, he assured me there was very little chance of that ending well. Anywho, one of the coaches almost came to blows with two of our competitors when he flat out refused to move the kids he was training just to 20 metres to the left. Most of the people we encountered were more curious and happy just to share the space, but this one guy was very aggressive. My question is, what is the most aggressive or outright bizarre encounters you've had with members of the public during a tournament you guys have been a part of? Cheers.
I can think of two off the top of my head. One more recent, but the first one was during, I think it was the Oklahoma Open 2 or 3 years ago. And there was I can't remember what course it was at, but there was a festival of, I don't want to be, they're very gypsy-like.
Okay. How dare you?
I know.
You're so offensive.
And they all of a sudden, they just started setting up tents, and it was like a craft show almost, but people were just setting up tents, and they were selling stuff, and then they were starting to cook. And I remember we were thinking, I can't remember if it was the one that we were running, but we sort of panicked, and they had to go talk to them. And some of them were like, okay, we'll try to stay out of your way. But some were like, okay, that's cool. You're playing an event, but we're not moving. And so they literally had to it changed people's throws because of the way the hole was made and where they were at.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what do you do?
Yep.
I think it was a park that you could rent part of the park, but you couldn't rent the whole thing. So it was like, there wasn't much you can do. The most recent one though was at Class 1 Open.
Oh yeah.
It was one of the C tiers. Now what? Okay. No. It was out at Swope Park when the baseball players.
Yeah, that was awful. And okay, to Doug's credit and everyone who's involved with the tournament, we had rented out the park.
Yes.
We had gotten with the high school coaches and said, we're going to be out here from this time to this time. We absolutely cannot have any practice on these fields. We rented out the entire park. They disregarded that.
Yeah. Showed up, started playing. And then now this is hearsay. These are rumors. But from what I hear that they were actually being rather belligerent and on purpose hitting balls to hit toward players.
Yeah. Really, really awful situation.
Yeah,
and Doug was so frustrated. He was on the phone. Just from the second he found out about it, just with the principal of the school, with the sheriff, with all these people, for people that just weren't following the rules and, respecting the fact that we reserved the park.
Yeah. So the biggest thing you got to remember now, the thing is that if you go to if you're playing a tournament, even if it's a public park, you got to remember that you're not the only one that belongs in the park. Now, unless, of course, you have a situation where you are able to reserve a park, then that's a different situation. But a lot of people would say that's kind of the argument for pushing more toward private pay-to-play courses. In fact, that's one of the big reasons why we have now the GBO MPO field on the Emporia Country Club, because we have a lot more control because it's on a private course.
That's right. The craziest one that I saw, it was a tournament when I was in Abilene. And
Abilene.
You always do that.
I know
man.
this song.
Come on, man. And there's one hole they can, I guess they can't rent out the park in its entirety out there, but there's one hole that plays over a little creek, and most everybody just throws a spike hyzer onto this little landing zone where the basket is. There's road deep of it and water short of it. And a friend of mine at the time was there was a truck that had parked just right in front of the tee box, like right in front of the tee box, and he had said, "Hey, would you mind moving your truck?" Nicely, the person very impolitely said some words to him and moved his truck up by the basket. This friend of mine, I wouldn't call this the smartest decision, at least not one that I would make.
Okay.
But this friend of mine forewent the regular Spike Heiser route and just drilled the fastest disc he had at the guy's car by the basket and just smoked the side of it, and it was inbounds. And he got a 2. And I guess the guy found out about it later.
So he hit the truck, or did
yeah, smoked the side of it hard.
Did it do anything?
It left a dent.
Wow. Yeah, not a smart thing.
Yeah,
because
not great.
Lerthos on YouTube says, "What do? They refuse to move. You throw your shot, and what happens, happens." I don't know that that's. I get what you're saying. I understand the sentiment. You've warned them and everything, but I don't know that if your disc were to hit somebody, I don't know how much weight that would hold if you just said, you know what, I told them
what
to move.
happens.
What happens.
Yeah,
You know, especially
it's a tough situation.
Park,
it's to our benefit to be more responsible and respectful as often as we can, because you can't assume that they know what's going on, that they know that this will hurt a lot if it hits you, things like that.